probably heard a lot about India's constitution, right? It's this incredible document. But what about the story before the story? Well, today, we're going to peel back the curtain on the dramatic, often overlooked prequel, the chain of events, the failed deals, and the ticking clock that set the stage for modern India.
So, let's start with a massive question. How do you even begin to build a single nation out of a vast, sprawling empire? For India back in the 30s and 40s, this wasn't some abstract idea. It was a real, high-stakes political puzzle, and honestly, the whole world was watching.
You see, the road to India's freedom wasn't a straight shot, not at all. It was more like a maze of negotiations, proposals, and, as we're about to see, a whole lot of failed deals. And each time a deal fell through, it just pushed everyone further apart, making a dramatic outcome feel almost inevitable.
Okay, let's set the scene. We're in the 1930s. You've got three main players at the table. First, the British, who are trying to figure out an exit strategy. Then you have the Indian National Congress, who are pushing for one unified, independent India. And then the Muslim League, fighting for the political future of Muslims. Three groups, three totally different ideas of what the future should look like.
So the first real crack at solving this puzzle were these big meetings in London, the Roundtable Conferences. But, just look at this timeline. It was pretty much a story of failure right from the get-go. In 1930, the biggest political party, Congress, doesn't even show up. When Gandhi finally goes in 31, the whole thing grinds to a halt over minority rights. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. This was a fundamental crack forming in the very idea of a united India.
All right, let's jump forward a decade. Now, the whole world is on fire with World War II. Britain is desperate for India's help, so they come back to the table with a new offer. But now the stakes are so much higher. And those little cracks we saw before, well, they've turned into deep, massive divides.
This new offer was called the Cripps Mission. And on the surface, it sounded pretty good. Dominion status after the war, a chance to write their own constitution, and this really crucial third point. Provinces could choose not to join the new union. Now, this opt-out was supposed to be a clever compromise, right? But it backfired spectacularly, ending up pleasing absolutely no one.
And who could say it better than Mahatma Gandhi himself? He called the offer a post-dated check on a failing bank. What a line. It just perfectly captures that feeling of skepticism. Why should we trust a promise for the future from an empire that was, at that very moment, fighting for its own survival? This right here, this just lays out the complete deadlock perfectly. For Congress, it was simple. We want power now, not some IOU for after the war. And they hated that secession clause. They saw it as a dagger aimed at the heart of a united India. But the Muslim League rejected it for the exact opposite reason. For them, the plan didn't go far enough. It didn't explicitly guarantee a separate state of Pakistan. The British were just stuck, completely caught in the middle.
So with the British-led talks hitting a brick wall, Indian leaders were like, okay, fine, we'll try to figure this out ourselves. But by this point, one issue, just one, had started to dominate every single conversation: the demand for Pakistan.
And that led to a really interesting proposal called the CR formula. The idea was actually pretty clever. Step 1, let's work together first, get independence. Step 2, after the war, we'll figure out which districts have a Muslim majority. And Step 3, let the people in those areas actually vote on whether they want to form a separate state. It seemed logical, right? A step-by-step approach to a super emotional issue.
But it was a hard no. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the Muslim League, his response was just scathing. He called the potential country that would come out of this plan a mutilated and moth-eaten Pakistan. Why? Because this plan would only carve out specific districts, not the whole provinces of Bengal and Punjab that he wanted. To him, it was a shadow of the nation he was fighting for.
And the pattern just keeps going. Another attempt, another failure. In 1945, the Wavell Plan tried to set up a temporary government, but it collapsed because Jinnah insisted that only the Muslim League could choose the Muslim representatives. For Congress, which had lots of Muslim members of its own, that was just impossible to accept. Think about that. They couldn't even agree on who should be in the room to negotiate.
Okay, flash forward to 1947. The war is over. Britain has a new government. And frankly, their patience has completely run out. After years of watching these talks go nowhere, London decides it's time to force the issue. They're about to drop a bombshell.
And this was it. This wasn't another plan. It wasn't another formula. It was an ultimatum. The British Prime Minister, Clement Attlee, gets up and announces that Britain is leaving India.
period. The question was no longer if they were leaving, but who they were going to hand the keys to on their way out.
And this is the date that changed everything. Attlee put a hard deadline on it, June 1948. All of a sudden, there's a massive ticking clock hanging over everyone's heads. The time for political games was over. A decision had to be made, and it had to be made fast.
So to manage this final, frantic stage, Britain sends in their closer, the last viceroy, Lord Mountbatten. He gets to India, takes one look at the political gridlock, and basically concludes that all those old plans for united India, they're toast. He comes up with one last drastic plan, a plan born from the ashes of all the previous failures.
And here it is, the Mountbatten Plan. It worked where everything else had failed, because it did the one thing no one else would do. It gave up on the idea of a united India. It accepted partition, created 2 new countries, and, this is the wildest part, it ripped up that June 1948 deadline and moved independence up to August 15, 1947, just a couple of months away.
And here's the real kicker, the tragic irony of this whole story. After all those decades of struggling for a single independent India, the only plan that both Congress and the Muslim League could finally say yes to was the one that broke it in two.
Just look at this timeline. The speed is just breathtaking. We're talking less than 6 months to dismantle an empire and create 2 brand new nations. A deadline is announced in February, and by August, it's all over. It was a political whirlwind, and it had devastating human consequences.
And this brings us right back to where we started, the Constituent Assembly of India, the group of people who would write that amazing constitution. They could only even start their work after this entire long, painful prequel of political struggle had finally reached its conclusion with partition.
So we're left with this haunting question. After all the conferences, all the missions, all the formulas that aim for unity, partition ended up being the only solution left on the table. In a way, it was the price of freedom. But when you look back at this journey, at all the missed opportunities and the hardened positions, you just have to wonder, was there another way?